All right, everybody. So we're moving on to topic 6.4. This is going to be about global economic development between the period of 1750 and 1900. And this one's going to be fairly brief because what we're seeing here is a globalized trade that's going to occur in the beginnings of globalization, where you'll see some areas that are going to become industrialized and some areas are going to become essentially places where raw materials are harvested from for the benefits of those industrialized nations who will turn it into manufactured goods. Okay, so there's no essential question for today, but there are three words that will be highlighted that you'll need to submit as part of your assignment to ensure that you have that you have watch this, okay? So the need for raw materials for factories and increased food supplies for a growing population in urban centers led to the growth for export economies around the world that specialize in commercial extraction of natural resources and the production of food and industrialized crops. So the profits from these raw materials were used to purchase finished goods. So really briefly, the examples that are given by College Board of some of the products and such is cotton production in Egypt, rubber extraction in the Amazon and Congo Basin, palm oil trade in West Africa, something I'll talk more in detail about in my next lecture, and the guano industries in Peru and Chile. And guano, what it essentially is, it's bat or bird poop. To put it, not really an official name, but the reason why it's collected and there's such large deposits of stuff like this is that it was used to be manufactured into fertilizer. And so it was a really important ingredient to artificial fertilizers, and that's why it was such an important product and raw material to get their hands on. And of course, diamonds from Africa. So each one of these we've talked about in some basis, what's going on. And we will, again, in some of the cases for next lecture, about some more details of each one of these. But these are the things that, as far as examples of resources that are coming from certain areas that are being sent and manufactured into other parts of the world, particularly the Europe and the United States and Japan. There are also some other examples that College Board didn't provide that are worth noting, like ivory from Africa. And so ivory is going to be a product that comes from West Africa. The Ivory Coast is a country today that is still around. It was started as a French trading post for primarily ivory. Now, ivory, if you're not familiar, it comes from the tusks and the teeth of African, elephants. And it's a material that was a luxury and highly desired because of how durable it was, and so it would be turned into things like combs, piano keys, even flooring. So ivory is one of those products that would definitely be highly desired across the world, and in particular Europe. And so that does have environmental impacts when a lot of the elephants are going to be hunted for those things. So minerals all over the world: silver from Mexico, copper from Chile, northern Rhodesia, Zambia, and then of course Belgium, Congo. We'll talk more in detail about what happens with Chile in the next lecture, but tin is another product that comes from Bolivia, Nigeria, Malay, Indonesia, that was used to make tin cans and far as food preservation goes. And of course, gold that always be a highly desired product and such. This is kind of Australia, South Africa, and West Africa become new areas where large deposits would be found and extracted. And then the diamonds from South and Central Africa kind of see on this. Now, the global consequences of this is that as urban populations grow, there's going to be a need for more and more of these products that are going to increase the demand, which then increases the more extraction, which so on and so forth. So as industrialized countries grow wealthier and had a higher standard of living, the need to protect these global markets becomes more and more important. And in these areas where they are being forced to grow or, particularly focus on, these products and such, there is going to be consequences that come with that, economic and, of course, environmental. Especially when you have an area, a region that is going to be forced to grow one particular type of crop. And when that happens, you end up having monocultures or monocropping, and that can lead to things like soil erosion because of the lack of diversity in the crops that are plants that are growing there. And then on top of that, you will see deforestation and large scale removal of forest so that it can create more farmland, something we see still today with slash and burn agriculture. And then also, the areas are more susceptible, and the crops themselves are more susceptible to the spread of diseases and pests because there's not enough diversity to slow down the spread, and it continues to move on and on and on. So that's an issue that does develop as a result of that. Now, in case you didn't see this graphic and any of the other things, it does kind of break down the areas and different things. And there's one thing I didn't mention that it should be worth noting is the meat. And meat becomes something that comes from lots of different areas, but I want to focus on particularly Argentina and Uruguay as places where they had large areas of grassland that were used for grazing that cattle really thrived on. And so they would export this meat to Europe because of new technologies like refrigeration that make that possible. And as these urban centers grow in Europe, the need for more meat continues to grow with it. And that's something of a trend that still continues still today. So that's it. If you didn't see the 3 highlighted words, go back. You can find them. They're pretty obvious as you go through them, but that's just what you'll submit instead of the essential questions. The next lecture will have an essential question to go along with it. Until then, I will see you next time.